See these basic shelves, cabinets, shelves, whatever you call them, that I make for the shop. I don't like this design as well. I think I'm just going to stick with basically 2 foot tall by 36 long, just some basic shelves to store things in here in the shop. I kind of screwed up. I just want to show you how to fix something when you mess up like that. So it's not a big deal on this, but I'm going to make a fixture to set these in so it'll matter more. But if you'll notice, this doesn't have maybe an 1/8 left on that end, and this one I think was about 5/16 is what I was shooting for. The reason for that is because the tool, I just had a line drawn into the, I had a vector drawn. Let me show you in here how I did this. I really just had one long board in here, and I had just got it against these stops, set a 0 here, clamped it here and there, and then I just milled that out. It's not a big deal, and got my control right here. Let's go back in the software and figure out why. I know what it did. As soon as it did it, I could see that I overlooked something that I should have been paying better attention, because it came in and milled this end off just like this. So that's a climb cut. You see an end mill here to use for an example here. Here's a rougher, which works good for this kind of work. So I came in here, you know, you're turning clockwise, you should be going this way. That's a climb cut. After it made that cut like that, I noticed that it went down here, and it did, and I'll go, crap, why is that doing a conventional mill cut right there? So it's doing that cut, and I know exactly what it did. It thinks it's on the outside. I had drawn that as profile outside the line. So it was outside of this line, but it was inside of this line. That's why it made it. And I was using a 1/8 end mill that's still in here. I was using the Badger. And so it was actually on the wrong side of the line. And to fix that, you need to change your start point. I didn't even notice that. I didn't even look at it. I just didn't verify it. I was kind of in a hurry, and that's why I did that. So let's go in and look at the software. I'll show you how to fix that if you don't really know how. And I'm going to show you how to check it before you do it and all of that, so you don't make dumb mistakes like that, which in this case, it's not a big deal. It's just a shelf that's going together, glued together. That doesn't really matter. But it could matter if you were on a more important project. Let's go take a look at that. All right, let's see. There's the board I had on there, and I don't like 3D view. I'm just not a fan of it. But here's basically the vectors I drew. I think I've turned off a layer here that's the mill length. But let's just go over this real fast as I can, just to show you. This is the general shape of the board I was cutting, but I didn't really use this vector for anything. I wasn't going to mill the sides, so I just drew some lines, and this is the dados that I cut in it. Let's see what size I made these. It fit really well on this 1/8 that I was using. So I made those, you know, I lied to it about the width because I did a pocket there. 8.5 inches wide by 765 is what I milled that out with a 1/8 end mill. And it fit just right. It wasn't super tight, but it sure wasn't loose either. So, you know, 765 to 770 would be a good number for the material thickness I'm using anyway. Just some old pine 1/8 I got from probably Home Depot or somewhere. Now let's turn off this so we can see the mill length here real easy that I did. So let's go over here. These are, all I was doing is cutting that off to, I was trying to use up the board length that I have, so looks like I was just going 23 and about 15/16 or something like that on length. Something like that, pretty close to 2 foot tall. So, and then I was just milling this off and using this same board, and then I'll move it down, and I did 2 of them. I think I have enough board to do 4 of them. But anyway, let me show you where I messed this up. So let's look over on this mill height. Now if you can see my vector, remember I told you the bottom one worked fine. Let's look at this toolpath first. See, it's setting to a cut depth of 755, so cutting all the way through the material. 1/8 end mill. Outside, see this machine vectors, outside the line, climb cut direction. And you know, I did some ramps and stuff, but that's it. Alright, that's fine. That's what I want it to be, is outside the line. Let's close that, and now you can see, because I've selected that, if you don't know, just select your vector, and in 2D you can see where your toolpath is. We're using 1/8 cutter, so it's going to be a 1/16 off of that line. So you can probably see right here, about 60 thou. I think I made it to do a little extra cut there, I don't know. Anyway, so we're in the center of our tool, outside the line. If you ever see your toolpath inside your line, you know you've messed up. That's where I messed up. I didn't look at that. And you see here, our toolpath is inside the line. That's why it cut it too small. Okay, the way you fix that, see your start point is right there. So let's right click this and say move. I don't know if you can do it this way. I was going to show you. Go into node edit mode right here. Now the start point shows to be over here. Don't know why it showed that right there, but let's move our start point. Say make start point there. Just move it the opposite of what it was. Now go in here and just go recalculate. It's just saying you have open vectors, I know that. And it says it's going to cut through material, and I know that. Now let's go in here and look at our toolpath. Go back to 2D view. And see, now we're outside of that line, and it's going to start over here with the toolpath, and it's going to go in a climb cut direction, turning clockwise, outside of that line. And I shouldn't have changed anything here. Nope. So now that's all it takes to fix that. I just didn't notice it when I did that, and I didn't notice it. You know, you probably could have simulated and also possibly seen that, even though it's kind of hard to simulate something when you're coming off of your work. It just don't show all of your stuff here because you're outside of your work. But you could preview this, and you know, it's hard to see that exactly. Now you can draw, if you click this, you can see your vectors and see if you look like you're lined up just right there. And if I would have checked that earlier, I probably would have noticed. There's a lot of ways to verify that, but I was just showing you that the best way to verify that is to look at, not necessarily in a simulation, but just select this and look at where your tool is in relation to your vector, and you'll see that I'm outside the line, and earlier I was inside the line. So anyway, hopefully that helps someone else that may not know that stuff, and I knew it, I just didn't do it. But change your start point in your node edit mode if you want. You know, probably the best way is to go over to push N for node editing. You can see your start point is right here, which that's on your toolpath. That would turn off toolpath, and it shows the start point over here for some reason. And I don't know why that. You would think your start point is here, but it's probably, I don't know what that is exactly. I just know that change it opposite of what it was. If you see that right, and then it will fix that problem. Oh, I got to get back over here. Push the N to turn node editing off. And so that shows your start points when you're just looking at it. But start points are opposite of what you would think they are on your toolpath. So for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. Just change them to the opposite, and it'll start from the opposite direction. And always make sure you know that you're clear of any clamps or anything like that when you're doing cutting like that. When I'm holding down with clamps, I rarely do that, but on quick stuff like this, that you're just cutting something off or doing something, clamps can work. Just be sure you know where they are and that any of your rapids are not going to be hitting clamps. And I already studied that when I did this. I had already known that my clamps were in places that, well, you can look at the rapid moves here, see where they're at. And they are moving like this on that dado work. So they are in the way of a clamp here. So if you'll notice, I had them picked up to 1 inch high and my clamps were only about a 1/2 inch. So I knew they would come up over the top of the clamps before they did this. Same way on their dust boot, make sure your dust boot is also clearing those places, and you can look in your G-code or even look at these positions and you can see all that. You'll notice anywhere you put this, you can normally see that. Anyway, see right here in your material setup, you can go in here and change how high you're lifting. I'm lifting at 1 inch here on my rapid moves, and then 0.25 means every time it makes a cut, it's going to approach down to a 1/4 inch. So it's going to go over here, come down to a 1/4, then start the ramp, or the next move will come down to 0 and all that. So you can see how that's going to ramp down, how I had the ramp set. And as you can see, it was right outside the material. That's not exactly accurate, but see right there, I was ramping down before it hit material there. That's the way I wanted to do it there. So anyway, it's pretty cool. You can look at stuff like this and be sure you know what's going to happen. So now that I've fixed that, I'm going to go in and just push File, Save, and I do Save As because I don't want to save this as a 3D file. I'm just saving it as VCAR files, and I'll save that in the same place it was, and I'm done with that. Alright, thanks for watching this. I just wanted to clear that up in case anyone else has any of those issues. So see you next time.